Hi guys, so I just wanted to make a quick first video to introduce myself and just to sort of give you a little bit of background on myself. So my name's Becky, I'm 25 and I have POTS, Ehlers Danlos and mast cell activation syndrome. I was diagnosed with POTS when I was 16, that was in 2012, so I've been dealing with this for quite a while now. And I just thought that it would be helpful for you if you are currently trying to get a diagnosis, or if you've already been diagnosed, or even if you've been dealing with it for a while. You may find that, you know, maybe you can relate to some of the stuff I'm saying. I don't know, maybe you can. Maybe there's a couple of things I can share with you that have helped me that might help you. Because I know that in all the years I've had this now, there has been an awful lot of ups and downs, and a lot of it is all about learning what your body will tolerate, how far you can, you know, push it on certain days, how far you have to, you know, reel it in on other days, and it's all about your individual body. So obviously whatever I say may not work for you guys, but if it does, then obviously fantastic, you know, brilliant. So yeah, I just thought I would make this quick video. So as I said, I was diagnosed in 2012 when I was 16. I've had the symptoms since I was 14. As I've got Ehlers-Danlos, which is type 3. I've obviously had that since I was born, so it's uncertain really when my POTS actually started. The symptoms came about originally because I was diagnosed with scoliosis as well. And at this point, obviously, we didn't know I had EDS and POTS, so I actually had scoliosis corrective surgery. So I've got titanium rods either side of my spine. So slightly limited flexibility in my back, but thankfully not too bad. And yeah, so the symptoms started around the same time as that, and it was thought that it was the spine that was causing the issues, and then we went down all the routes that you will probably be familiar with if you've been diagnosed or are trying to get a diagnosis. So we had brain tumour scans, we had adrenal tumour scans, epilepsy, migraines. So we were treated for all those things and tested for all those things before we actually reached this diagnosis now. So we did have to pay private to get the diagnosis. It wasn't an easy ride at all. It was 2 years of, well, probably the worst 2 years of my life, and probably my parents' life as well. And if it wasn't for my parents, then I would not have been diagnosed now, because they kept pushing and pushing and pushing, because they knew that I wasn't the sort of child who would make up being unwell. So it's been really difficult, really difficult, but I'm at a point in my life now where I am 25, I've finished university, I have a degree in health sciences, I walk my dog, who you can see just here. I walk her once a day for 45 minutes to an hour, hour and a half. And I also now do HIIT workouts and running. So you may be sat there thinking, well, how on earth do you do that when you've got like 3 chronic illnesses? That's ridiculous. And that's part of the reason I've come on here, is because I know I've put it in the blog post so far and I've typed about it, but I think I need to explain these things because it has taken a long time for me to reach this point. And it's been a lot of hard work too. My reconditioning it has taken a really long time because I was so badly conditioned in the first place. And I know it's frustrating when you go to a doctor's appointment and they sort of say, oh well, you know, you're badly deconditioned and reconditioning will help. I know that is really hard to get your head around, and for me it was really difficult back when I was really unwell. Reconditioning my body was not something that was on the agenda at all, and these were on the days where I, you know, could barely get out of bed. So it is about finding the right time for you, and whenever that right time is, just keep going. do what you can, but don't put pressure on yourself. So I'll explain more about this. You know, I will do more videos than just this one. This is just going to be a little brief overview for me to say hello, and for me to just start explaining what, you know, my experiences with all of this. So yeah, long journey, but I'm now at a point where I feel I can give useful information to other people, whereas before I was still in a place where I was so unsure of things myself that any information I shared wouldn't have necessarily have been any use to people. But now I feel like I'm in a pretty good position. I'm currently self-employed. I have my own business, and I'm a baker from home. So I make cakes, cupcakes, tray bakes, all that sort of stuff. So for that, I'm on my feet a lot of the time, especially during this period, because people have gone crazy for cakes and stuff in lockdown. So it's been a really busy couple of weeks. This is actually my first day off in quite a long time. So yeah, it's been really, really busy. But again, that's something that, you know, a few years ago, I would never have dreamt of doing at all. I'm not doing this as my full-time job forever. Number one, I don't think I'd ever cope with it because it is a lot of hard work. And number two, I want to use my degree is, you know, my aim. So once, you know, things calm down a little bit here, I'll be job hunting for a job, hopefully in the laboratories at the hospital. I'm hoping to start off as a lab assistant and then train into the field that I'm more interested in. So I'll talk more about that some other time. So yeah, I'm on quite a few tablets a day at the moment for my POTS and EDS. So my biggest symptoms of POTS were dizziness, vision disturbances. So it would flash between complete no vision at all, which was the final stage. Before that it would be double, and before that it would be blurry. So that was kind of my trigger warning. Blurry vision, okay, you can risk it another couple of steps. Double vision, find a seat. Black vision, you're gonna faint, was basically the way I used to look at it when I was younger. Obviously it's a lot more complicated than that now I'm older, so thankfully I've learned a lot along the way. Headaches, I used to suffer really badly with headaches and fatigue. Fatigue was a terrible symptom. Now, some of you may have been diagnosed with chronic fatigue. I did manage to avoid that diagnosis. It was hard to avoid that diagnosis. I can remember having days where I couldn't get out of bed at all. It wasn't easy to not be diagnosed with chronic fatigue. It was a bit of a battle, really. I didn't particularly want to be diagnosed with it because I felt like if I was, it was a little bit of a slippery slope from there. So I wasn't diagnosed with that, but I did suffer really badly with fatigue. In terms of other symptoms, they've actually changed over the years. So what I used to suffer with, I don't necessarily suffer with so much now. I seem to have different symptoms that pop up. So nausea, that is a symptom I still suffer with now. Nausea is a bit of a difficult one to deal with. Back when I was younger, ginger nut biscuits used to help it. So I used to have one or two of them, and then they would work for about an hour, and then after that I'd go back to feeling sick again. So rarely actually sick, but just pretty debilitating nausea, the sort where you've got to go lie down, shut your eyes, go to sleep basically until it went away. Other symptoms, a lot of gastro symptoms, so I guess nausea comes under that category really as well. I was diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome, but more recently than that, I was, as I said earlier, was diagnosed with mast cell. So whether or not the IBS was actually mast cell, whether it was IBS and still is IBS, I don't know. And again, mast cell, a bit like POTS, one of those things that not an awful lot is known about at the moment. There's not been, you know, there's no specific treatments, there's no specific things that help it as such. There's not really an awful lot known about it, and being diagnosed with things that there aren't an awful lot known about in terms of why and how, can be really scary. And again, that's another one of the reasons that I've come on here, just to have a chat. Hopefully some of you will watch it who are in a similar position. You can see I'm just, a normal girl. There's no strange background story behind me. When I was, before I was diagnosed, I played hockey, did karate and horse riding, and I was very, very sporty. So my week was essentially taken up with obviously school learning, but also sports outside of that. So my hockey, I actually got to Devon level, completed Devon trials, got through, and karate, I was actually the belt before black belt. So it was pretty heartbreaking to have to give those things up when I was so unwell. That was probably one of the most difficult things to deal with. And again, if you're in a similar position or in a similar position to how I was, you will probably have also had to give things up that's been really difficult. And I'll cover more of that at a later date. So I guess I'll just sort of start at the beginning in a way. So when I was 14, as I said, issues with my spine. Mum and dad noticed one day after I got off a trampoline, I was wearing a bikini, it was in the summer, and as mum and dad always say, how often would you see your teenage daughter walking around, in a bikini? That's basically why it wasn't picked up that quickly. So went to the GP, got referred up to Exeter. I'm in Plymouth now, so we got referred up to Exeter, which is our closest scoliosis specialists, and was officially diagnosed with scoliosis up there. So at the time I was told there was no need to operate, it was not severe enough for an operation. Came away from that to be monitored every 6 months, 12 months. Anyway, went back and it had got a lot worse, and I was basically told that by the time I was 21 I would be in a wheelchair if I wasn't operated on. So the operation was pretty much a no-brainer for us. That summer I went in and had the operation. I recovered pretty quickly. Everybody was pretty impressed with my recovery. No problems with the operation, lost a lot of blood, was very anemic, but I was really small when I was a teenager, so I would expect that's probably what they deal with all the time anyway. It was like a 5-hour operation, so it was to be expected really. When it came back to reconditioning after the operation, there were quite a few episodes of dizziness, near fainting. The sensations that I got with POTS were very, very similar to that sensation I had. So it was put down at the time to do with the operation, the fact that I had lost a lot of blood. And I will just mention as well, before that I had one episode where I was drying my hair in the morning and my neck clicked. No different to anybody else's neck. It just clicked, and suddenly I felt a really strange sensation, got up to walk from my room to my parents' room, and by the time I got to my mum's room I couldn't actually see anything. So I was trying to feel my way along, and I sat on my mum's bed and she told me to just relax, just sit down for a bit, don't worry about it, I'll get to school, if I'm get to school a bit late it doesn't matter. And in the time that she had said that, I had actually collapsed onto the bed. So my mum obviously phoned an ambulance because it had never happened before. It's unknown whether it was a fit or a faint because my legs were moving, my body was convulsing, but they think that may have been because of the angle I was laid out on the bed. It may have been like the nerves were trapped or, slightly irritated by the way I was laid. And that may have caused me to sort of have the convulsions that I was having. But that was one of the reasons why epilepsy was questioned at the time. So that was the first ever episode, and from then, after the back operation, those got more frequent. So I can remember being at school and I would be, writing stuff down and trying to memorize things, and my brain just couldn't do it. Exams were very difficult. Felt like there was a constant blanket over my head when I was trying to think. It was almost like somebody had turned the lights out, and you couldn't bring the information you needed to bring to the front of your mind. And that made me feel really, really bad at school, because school is difficult enough for teenagers, let's be honest. So when you've got something like that, and you're getting asked a question by a teacher and you don't know the answer, when you do know the answer but you can't get the words out, obviously that is quite difficult. Combine that with the near fainting episodes as well. That was also very difficult. I kept this from quite a lot of people at school for quite some time. I was quite a closed book when it came to stuff like that. Didn't want people knowing everything that was going on, and because we were fighting so hard to get a diagnosis, it wasn't something that I was willing to share with people, purely because it had been said a couple of times that it might be in my head. And the more you get told that, the more you believe it yourself, and you start to wonder if your head is making it up. Do I really feel dizzy now? Am I really feeling like I'm going to faint? You really, really start to question yourself. So for us, the diagnosis was, it was bittersweet. It was a sense of relief, because we'd finally got an answer. We knew why it was happening, but also it's a lifelong sentence. It stays with you forever. It won't go away, especially the EDS. Obviously, I was born with that. At the moment, I'm really, really lucky that the EDS doesn't affect me too much. I am bendy, especially considering I've got metal rods in my back. And I've had a couple of knee problems. I've had a couple of shoulder subluxations, but other than that, that is about it for me for the EDS. Apart from the gastro symptoms, but again, POTS or EDS related, they could be either way. So then that leads on to the mast cell, which is very, very recent. And that at the moment is the one that's causing me an awful lot of problems. So the mast cell, basically, my biggest problem with it is bloating. It's not so much the anaphylactic shock type reactions that I get. It's bloating, severe stomach pain. I've had a couple of episodes where I've never felt pain like it in my life. One episode, actually, I think it was last year, I actually ended up having to go to hospital for, and that was not a pleasant experience. They're still not entirely sure why it happened. They actually told me it could have been food poisoning, but or gastroenteritis. But I've had gastroenteritis, and I know that it definitely wasn't that. And they couldn't find any specific markers to say that it was either. So bit of fluid pumped in and some strong painkillers, and I was on my way home. So it's unpredictable. It's difficult to live with. The bloating is pretty horrendous. As I said, I was very active before I got diagnosed with this, and now I walk my dog. It was just my bed down there. I walk my dog once a day for 45 minutes to an hour and a half, and I then come back home, and that's at 5:30 in the morning, and I then come home and do 2 HIIT workouts, or I'll do a HIIT workout and a 3-mile run, or I'll do a 5-mile run. So these are all things that I never thought I would be able to do, and it has taken an awful lot to get here. I know you may be sat there now thinking, how on earth does she do that if she's got 3 chronic illnesses? And it is literally just when your body feels like it's the right time to start reconditioning, that's what you need to listen to. Nobody can tell you when it is the right time. If I was still back where I was when I was at my illest, I would not be here. It's taken many trials of different medications and treatment options and all sorts to get me to this point. So please don't sit there and, you know, worry because you're not in the same position. Hopefully you will be one day, and hopefully you will reach a point where you are able to start reconditioning yourself as well. And when you are able to, you just need to keep going. Just try your best to set yourself a routine. Obviously, if you are really feeling unwell one day, don't push it. But that's another reason why I've come on here, is to basically explain how I've done this and how I'm now at a point where I've gone from bedbound to running 5 miles. I am not a runner. My partner will tell you that I constantly say I am not a runner. Even on the runs, I will be whinging because it's really hard. 5 miles, you know, 10 pauses or so just to get the heart rate back down. It's not easy. I don't just pop my shoes on, pop out for a run and I'm back within half an hour. It's difficult and it takes a lot of psyching up. So I just thought I'd come on to explain a little bit about that as well. So going back to the symptoms and stuff of what I experienced when I was younger, they have changed over the years. You can probably tell from what I've just said that in terms of the near fainting episodes, they went from happening daily to now, which is, you know, they're pretty rare. Thankfully, I don't get near fainting episodes that often now. I may have off days every now and then, especially if I've pushed it too hard, where I will feel like I'm feeling dizzy, lightheaded. Nausea will kick in at some point during the day. But thankfully my medications keep it really well controlled at the moment. So I've got an amazing consultant down here who has a interest in POTS, which we are really lucky to have him. And he's been amazing throughout this whole thing. And his view on finding the right treatments is basically treating the individual symptoms and finding medications that will help you with the individual symptoms, because there is no one treatment for POTS. There is no cure for POTS or EDS or Mast. So every symptom I get, I go to him, tell him, and then we come up with a plan from there. And it may mean that means trialing, you know, 3 or 4 medications before we hit the right one, and then when we hit the right one, we'll stick at it and increase the dose as needed. Currently I'm on midodrine, ivabradine, pyridostigmine, and I'm also on ranitidine, but they've actually just run out of that now, so we can't actually get it down here at the minute. So I've been given a alternative to use if I need it, but thankfully, touch wood, I've been okay so far. So yeah, it's obviously, if you are suffering from it as well, you may be on different medications. I know that there are different beta blockers and stuff that are used in POTS. I can't even remember the name of it now, but I know I did try one out back along, and it actually made me worse rather than better. So that's just an example of how different things will work for different people, and it's no different when it comes to reconditioning your body. It might not be the right time for you, as I said earlier, so just be patient. That is one of the biggest things you can, that's one of the biggest favours you can do for yourself, is just treat yourself with a little bit of respect and a little bit of patience. You will get there in the end. So I did have really terrible days. Days I couldn't get out of bed, I had to crawl to the toilet. My mum and dad still had to go to work. They couldn't afford to take loads of time off and be home with me all the time, so not to the frequency that I was ill anyway. So GCSEs were done, but with special circumstances in place. It was thought at the time of GCSEs I had labyrinthitis, which obviously I didn't. It was POTS. Another good little disguise there for it. And I actually had one particular exam where I walked into the room not even knowing what day it was, and somehow I did actually come out of that one with a pass. So anything's possible, guys, seriously. From there I moved schools. I felt like I needed a bit of a fresh start, so I moved schools for my A-levels. This was for a couple of reasons. Firstly, I felt like I needed a fresh start and to meet new people, because I've obviously gone through this time. I'd been quite secretive about things with people. I didn't want to share everything. I wasn't ready to share everything. And when you're 16, people aren't particularly interested in if you're ill or not. It's a really difficult age actually for anyone, and when you've got other things to deal with on top of that, it can be even worse. So I moved schools just to get a little bit of a fresh start, clear my head a bit, knuckle down with A-levels and just try and push through those. That didn't happen. So my AS year, I was so unwell that I actually got taken out of my AS year, and I was basically told to not bother with the A-levels because it was far too much stress on my body to be doing that amount of work. And the A-levels I actually chose were English, psychology, biology and chemistry. So they were all A-levels are hard, but they were pretty bad A-levels to be doing at that time, especially chemistry, where you needed to be doing practical science. You had to be there for that. You couldn't do it from home. So that was really difficult. So I didn't want to give up after the first year. I did fail the first year. I decided that I wanted to try and do it from home because I couldn't make it into school. So I did. I pushed through and I tried to do the work from home, did the exams, failed it again. So at that point, I was probably at my lowest point then. It was a difficult time because I didn't know where I was going to go from there. I had dreams and aspirations as a child of wanting to be a doctor, and that was taken away from me. I desperately wanted to go to university. That was something I actually wanted to do, and obviously without A-levels you're not getting in. So went through all of that, didn't make it to A2. Found the Open University. Now, the Open University, if you don't know them and haven't heard of them before, they offer distance learning. So you don't need qualifications to get in. If you haven't got any qualifications at all, sorry, just excuse my dog. If you haven't got any qualifications at all, they might just ask you to do an access course to get in, just to bump you up with, basic English and maths. If you've come straight from GCSEs, they're not bothered about that. But even so, even if you do the access course, you don't need to do anything else. You don't need anything else. They will still give you the opportunity to study what you want to study. So you choose a course with them. You can actually do an open pathway if there's not something that really interests you. If you want to do like a mixture of things, maybe you're a bit interested in maths, a bit interested in science, maybe you're doing it more for your own mental health than, for a job. You can do that. They will let you do that. They are extremely flexible. They also have a disabled student allowance on there, and they will come to your house, make sure you're well equipped for studying at home with your disability, give you all the support that you need basically. With exams, they will send an invigilator to your house, so you don't have to go and stress about going to a new place, having to make sure that you're well enough to get there. They are amazing, and if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have my degree. So I studied health sciences. I did it part-time, so it took me 6 years. So I only technically graduated this year. I've now got a BSc Honours in Health Sciences, so I'm very happy about that. And that is the degree that I want to use eventually to get my job, which, as I said earlier, I want to be ideally train in as a lab assistant and then train up to something that I you want to specialise in. That's been put on hold for now because of everything that's going on, understandably. So I'm just currently waiting, which is why the baking has sort of kicked off a bit. So I'm currently just waiting for jobs to come back out for that again, and then I'll be applying for those. So things will change, and whether I will cope with a full-time job at the moment or not it's anybody's guess. I am nervous about it because I desperately want to be able to work like the average person, but obviously I am aware that I have limitations as well. And that is a lot of what this is all about, this journey. You have to accept every step of the way that you do have limitations, and there are things that you won't necessarily be able to do. But it's a learning curve, and you do learn things. I'm still learning things now, even though I've been going many years with it. And there are still things now that I didn't know at the start. This little one here has been amazing for me. She's only 5, and she has been incredible for me the whole time. She's been great to get me out of the house, walk the dog, a bit of companionship, and that is one of the reasons why we got her. We did have a dog before, but she sadly passed away. So yeah, she is amazing, and I love her to bits, and she will be coming with me when I move out. I currently still live at home with my parents. My partner moved in recently, and he's been living with us for, I think, just over 6 months now. I am also engaged, so I'm going to be getting married next year. So we're also in the middle of wedding planning. At the moment, we've got our venue and everything sorted out, but you know, all the little details, obviously things have been put on hold again at the moment a little bit, so it's all a bit jumbled, this video, but it's difficult to start right at the beginning and remember everything that's happened, because there is a lot that's happened. So I will do smaller videos that are a little bit more in depth on particular things, and if there's anything that you'd like to know my experience on, please do send me a message through my website and let me know. I would really love to be able to help people at the moment. I feel like I am in a good position to be able to do that, and to be able to share what has helped for me and what hasn't helped for me. It's worth a try. Whatever it is you are, you know, struggling with at the moment. I struggled with a lot of things, and I'm here now, thankfully, day to day, able to live a fairly normal life, just with limitations. So yeah, and I just wanted to come on, say hello, introduce myself, and give you a brief background of my story so far. I don't know really if there's anything else I can add from there, but my mum actually works at the hospital, and she's been told by several people that they have patients that this could help. So I hope it does, and I hope I'm able to give good information. And like I say, if there's any questions you have, please let me know and I will try and answer them. Obviously, I'm only doing this from a patient perspective, and this is purely patient experience. Obviously, I'm not medically trained at all. What I know is purely offering my own experiences. You may look at me and think it's difficult to believe that I was once bedbound, but I was, and I still have bad days now, and I would look very different to this if I was having a bad day. Like I said, today is a good day, and today is actually my day off. I've taken a couple of days off of baking because I've been pretty full on for the past couple of weeks. So it does look different. The days do look different. They don't always look the same. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted also to talk about the exercise, is because not every day is the same. Some days are much harder than others to push through. The exercises that I actually do are Joe Wick's HIIT workouts, so you may have heard of the body coach, especially at the moment. He's been running a lot of PE classes for the kids while lockdown's been on. He's an absolute inspiration to everyone. incredible bloke and does really great workouts from beginner to advanced. So, you know, and without joke, he does senior workouts. So if you are at the point where you are unable to stand for long periods of time, give the senior workouts a go, because they are seated, a lot of them. And I don't mean that in any offensive way at all, but it's worth a try. Just try and move your body little by little, and you will get so much stronger. I couldn't even run for 5 minutes when I first started all of this, let alone run for 5 miles. And like I said, a lot of pauses. I by no means run continuously for 5 miles. It's blimmin' difficult. My heart rate spikes. It goes from being absolutely fine right up to nearly 200 within the space of a minute, and obviously that does make me feel really unwell. So you have got to be careful. I always run with my partner. I never run on my own. We have got a treadmill. We've only had that for a couple of months. We decided while we were in lockdown, while we can't go to the gym, because we go to the hospital gym twice a week usually, and we decided while we couldn't use that we would get a treadmill because of the unpredictable weather. We don't really want to run in the rain. So that's the only time I run on my own, but there's always somebody in the house. So I would recommend, if you are going to start, even just walking, go with someone, don't go on your own. It's not worth the risk at all. So if you can, try and make sure you go with someone. Same with the HIIT workouts, try and do it with someone to start with. Don't start on your own. Make sure you've got someone with you. Make sure that you're prepared just in case anything happens. I've had a couple of fainting episodes on the stairs before, and they are not pleasant. You can't reposition yourself. Nobody can reposition you to get the blood to go back to your head. I did have one particular nasty episode not so long ago now, which happened in the middle of the night, and I got up, and it was actually when we just got the dog, and she was sleeping downstairs, and I thought I heard her bark or cry, and I went downstairs, and that was it. And my parents couldn't do anything because they couldn't actually move me on the stairs, so I did unfortunately stop breathing for a while. And that was probably one of the worst attacks I've ever had. Once I came back round and they were able to get me to somewhere where I could put my legs up, elevate my legs, and get that blood flowing normally again, I was okay. I came round, felt pretty rubbish and pretty groggy, but I was actually okay the day after, with a little bit of rest, plenty of fluids and salt, all that. You'll know about all of that if you've been diagnosed. And again, the science behind all of this is some of it's sort of common sense, and other parts of it are a little bit more complicated. I can go into some of that. Obviously, I would do a lot more research on that to make sure I give you the correct information first. All I know at the moment, and all I tend to follow, is try and drink as much as I can. Can be difficult with mast cell. An awful lot tends to irritate my stomach. I don't tend to go many days where I don't get stomach ache or nausea or bloating. Even just drinking some water will start it off. So it can be difficult, but plenty of fluids, good nutrition, not too many processed foods, because they just do not, they do not make you feel great. Try and keep a good balanced diet and try and keep myself active, and that's what I do at the moment. Those are the sort of steps that I try and follow. So yeah, I think that's it for today. I'll finish it up there. I hope that wasn't too jumbled up. I know the order of that wasn't great, but I didn't want to write everything down and it be all mechanical, so I thought it was better me just speaking as a person. And I think that is something that would have helped me a lot, was actually seeing, real person speak to me and tell me what helped them from coming from nothing to having a semi-normal life. And I hope that I'm able to give you a little bit of hope, and to make you see that it won't be bad forever. You won't ever recover. There is no full recovery. It will be with you forever, but you can get yourself to a point where you can live a semi-normal life. And I hope that I can give you some tips and tricks that will help you to get there. So yeah, I hope you're all well, and I hope everybody's staying safe in this crazy situation at the moment. It's all a bit strange. And hopefully it won't be long till I can make another video again or put another blog post up, either way. And at some point I'm also hoping, I've taken a couple of videos already, but I want to work on them a little bit, of the exercises that I do, just to show you the sort of exercises I'm doing. They are fairly advanced at this point, sort of like burpees, squat jumps, lunge jumps or stuff like that. They're things that get your heart rate up. The reason I find HIIT workouts so helpful is because you get a rest break in between, so you usually work for like about 40 seconds, take a 20-second rest period, and that 20-second rest period just allows your heart rate to just settle back to normal. The 40 minutes you're doing it for, it will really climb up there because it is intense. That is the point. It's high intensity interval training, but those intervals just allow you to recover. And to start with, you may only be able to do 10 seconds work and have 50 seconds rest. Absolutely fine, nothing wrong with that at all. Everybody starts somewhere, and wherever you start and whenever you choose to start, just be consistent. Try and keep at it if you can. If it makes you feel rubbish, take a day off. Don't push yourself. I am an absolute nightmare when it comes to pushing myself. I will always push my body far too far. I will be the one to take the final step before I faint rather than sit down first because I'm so stubborn. Don't be like that. It's not a good idea. So yeah, I'm not the best to give advice on pacing. I've never been good at it. I probably never will be. But I know that you should pace yourself. So if you can, and if you are someone who is pretty good at that, well done, because I've never managed it. So yeah, I will hope to talk to you soon, and I'll hope to film another video next. I think probably next I'll focus on like the full story. I'll write down a timeline of events, just so you can understand a little bit more from start to finish how things happen for me. I think that's probably where I'll start next, and then I'll go into the specific conditions a little bit more, and I'll just make sure I get all my facts right for that for you. So yeah, thank you for watching if you have watched. I really appreciate it, and like I say, I hope that it helps some of you, some of these videos. I am just a normal person. It's taken a lot of hard work, a lot of trial and medications to get here, and I just hope that it'll help you to see that it is possible. So thank you for watching, and I'll hope to see you again soon.